I promised I wasn't done making videos, and I appreciate that so many of you were patient and understanding that I needed some time after previous events. I'm someone who really prefers to step away from things and calculate them, especially when I feel like I've gone too far in for my own good. In this case, that's something that most certainly happened. I've done a lot of thinking and processing about the events surrounding Love Letter, getting involved in some of its drama, and I know I said I wouldn't make more Love Letter content. While I really don't want to, you know that I always reserve the right to change my opinion. While my opinion about continuing to cover Love Letter development and drama hasn't quite changed, I'm still keeping up with the drama out of pure curiosity. There's one other Love Letter video that was requested of me, and I'm considering it, but I'm really on the fence about it. A lot of you have asked me how I feel about making a video explaining everything that's happened with Love Letter so far since its announcement. Sort of a Love Letter drama for dummies kind of thing. I honestly put together a timeline for it, but I haven't written a script, and I'm really just not sure about it. I'm open to opinions on whether or not I should. It'd be something I would want to spend more time on, obviously. I'm happy to talk about Love Letter with people who ask and collab with other commentators. There are certain things I'm happy to give my opinion on when requested, so if someone really wants me to cover something or hear my take on it, I will consider it. I had a lot of people reach out to me when I uploaded my last 2 videos. I spoke to some YouTubers I never expected to meet, and honestly, it was comforting. I want to cite Choconanikin specifically because some things he said to me and some things I heard him say really helped me cool my shit when it came to the situation. I was upset, I was frustrated, and really in hindsight, I was mostly frustrated with myself because I got too far involved with something I didn't want directly involved in. I wasn't exactly in a position, though, to throw up my hands and say, no, I don't want this, I just wanted to commentate, because I made mistakes, and I learned a lot. I vowed that when I started uploading again, my first video I would make would be a reflection on what I learned from my brief stint covering Love Letter drama. Before I go into what I want to talk about, a lot of people were confused about the whole narwhal thing, and when I uploaded my previous 2 videos, I did a small collab with Harley TBS, so if you're curious about the whole Dr. APS's narwhal thing, please refer to that video. My part starts at 8 minutes and 31 seconds, and I explain it as thoroughly as I can in about 6 minutes, but give the whole video a watch. Harley's been really good to me and some of our mutual community members, and I appreciate that. I don't have any ill will towards anyone, not Dr. APS, not Yanderedev, not any current or former Love Letter volunteers, not any current or former Yanderedev volunteers. In general, I'm not a hateful person. While it's not impossible to upset me, I like to think that the world's a lot more beautiful when you assume everyone is trying their best. A lot of you have also asked me if I intend to delete any of my videos on Love Letter, especially the ones where I defended Dr. Apius against Yanderedev. I went back and forth on this, even asking my subscribers in my Discord channel what they thought, and the consensus was no, kind of solidifying my original opinion that I didn't want to delete the old videos. Not because I didn't want to lose the view count, but because I feel like it would make me disingenuous as a person and as someone who is new to the commentary thing. Like, I'd be pretending that I didn't defend Love Letter, or that I didn't defend Dr. APS or the Game Sleuth, or brush off what has now become more controversial parts of the drama, which I'll get to in a moment. I don't like pretending I have things to hide since I'm always preaching, normalizing, changing your opinion when presented with new information. The thought of deleting old videos just rubs me the wrong way. Even more so because I value looking at the big picture and trying to stay somewhat reasonable. I don't like to use the word neutral because I absolutely have biases. If I feel like someone is being a jerk, I'm gonna say it, no matter what side of the fence they're on. And I'd expect someone to do the same for me. Has my opinion on anything changed? Absolutely. A lot has changed for me, and I'm seeing people I once saw in a rather negative light, more as, positive human beings, and some people I saw as reasonable and kind as now questionable. However, I think I have some key talking points, and if you're willing to listen, there are things I'd like to discuss that deal a lot with how I handled and commentated on certain things. Things that I feel are not only valuable lessons for me, but valuable lessons for anyone who might want to consider covering Yandere Simulator or Love Letter drama, and maybe any drama in particular for that matter. So here we go. What Ghosts learned from covering Love Letter drama, a reflection. Number 1. I let my bias downplay some bigger issues in the Love Letter drama. I don't think that's any secret that I operated with a bias against Yandere Simulator, but I let that bias cloud my judgment when it came to covering Love Letter drama, which ultimately led me to not see some things as a big deal, or even as a deal at all, when, they were a big deal. I never saw anyone who was dismissed from Love Letter in a negative light, not the original Bee, not Shortcake, not Stampy, nobody. But in making my video, fact-checking certain things, I should have attempted to reach out to them to get their side. That's journalism 101, and while I'm not going for journalism with this channel, it is something that I should have done as someone who wanted to get as much information as possible before formulating an opinion. That's something I'll bring up later, but for now I want to focus on my biases. I got a lot of questions about, hey, why didn't you cover anything about that sexual harassment allegation against Zayd in this video? I should have at least stated my reasoning for it. To me, that was something that had been dealt with at the time, and there wasn't much for me to say beyond what was already said. It reflected more on Zaid than it did on the love letter team. However, I should have given an opinion on it, or at least said that in the video. Maybe it wasn't dealt with in the best way possible, but it was dealt with. Now, obviously, it's become a significantly larger issue as it was discovered that Zaid was continuing to work on the project in secret, adding a whole new layer to it. I'll talk a bit more about that later as well. I'm iffy about the word regret as it's not one that I like to use. I prefer using things as learning experiences, and I'm certain I've used the word regret in reference to some of these situations. In particular, parts of the drama that involve Cameron F305, one of the composers for Yandere Simulator and a former friend of Dr. Apius. When Cameron first approached me, I was extremely wary, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that he hasn't made mistakes, because he absolutely has. I told him I regretted not taking the quote-unquote raid of his Dr. Apius video more seriously in a video I made earlier this month. I truly didn't see it as a huge deal at the time, and some of my subscribers called me out on it, and honestly they were right to. I admittedly didn't know the gravity of said raid and just how hard his video was hit. Cameron has since been making efforts to try and clear his name while owning past mistakes, which I think is a good move on his part, not just as someone who is associated with Yandere Dev, but just as a young man who is looking to grow and improve. I don't think it's fair to hold his feet to the flames without hearing him out just because he's friends with Yandere Dev. A lot of people ask me if I believe Cameron's words about his screenshots, specifically at about 22 minutes and 20 seconds of his truth about Dr. Apius video. My answer is yes, I do believe Cameron. I just think it's really interesting that people are so willing to accept Dr. Apius owning mistakes he's made, but Cameron attempts to do the same and he's thrown under the bus. I don't think it's ever too late to own up to anything, and I'm not going to keep a permanent label on someone, especially if they're showing efforts to better themselves. I've also had people tell me that Cameron's credibility is null because of his association with Yandere Dev, and that guilty by association thing just isn't something I can get behind. Because believe it or not, Yandere Dev has fans and supporters. I know from the outside looking in, we can look at the situation and say, hey, this is a game that's been in development for 6 years. Look at this drama, look at what he's said and some things that he's done, etc., etc. But you also have to look at the reasons why someone might still support Yandere Dev in his game, which I think could make for an interesting video. I kind of want to plug Cameron's most recent commentary video because it is interesting, at least for me, to hear insight from someone on the inside, so to speak, of the Yandere Simulator drama. He has a few interviews, and the one with the game sleuth was of particular interest to me. On to number 2, I should have allowed more wait time in between dramas. Wait time is actually a really valuable questioning technique when you're teaching, and it's something I use regularly, especially when posing a more challenging question to my students. In pedagogy, it refers to how much time you wait in between posing a question to your students and calling on one of them. Allowing wait time gives students more time to think, and while you have those students who instantly raise their hands no matter what, and then you have the students who are too busy thinking about what they're going to do at recess to pay attention, you have those students who will sit and think before raising their hands. I always like to give a good 5 seconds or longer because if I'm constantly picking the kids who always have their hands in the air, I'm not giving everyone a fair chance. And oftentimes waiting is going to get me a more insightful answer from a student anyway. I'm using this analogy because I like analogies to things I know well. They help me reflect on things and better understand them. I was so focused on making a video about this and that, and because I was scared things would become old news, but I wasn't allowing for proper wait time. Not just for myself to really analyze what it was I wanted to say in my commentary, but to allow for more information to come out. I brought up the situation with Zaid earlier because that's an example of something that I didn't cover because I felt like it was dealt with, but even more information came out about it later. That wait time could have also allowed me to talk to members of my growing community because I do value opinions, and some of my more active members in my Discord have brought up some excellent points that I really didn't even think about in regards to certain things. Number 3, I should have done more fact-checking. I brought this up earlier, but especially in issues related to Shortcake, Standpie, and Cameron, I should have sucked up the confidence to find a way to contact them for a statement. I value fact-checking, but it wasn't fair for me to just say, hey, I was told this by 2 love letter volunteers, and I feel like this is what happened. Here are some screenshots. Because that instantly leads me to number 4. I should have relied less on screenshots and more on statements. Someone made this comment on my fact-checking video, and I couldn't argue with it because they were right. Take screenshots with a grain of salt because, yes, they can totally be faked, which then completely nullifies any point that I might make. This is really where approaching people involved in the drama was important because I could then say, hey, here's this side, and here's what I think about all of it. I'm not discrediting screenshots completely, of course, but when someone hands you something and says, oh my goodness gracious, look at what this person said, you should always consider that something could have been faked or taken out of context. Hell, look at the accusations that the love letter team doxed a child. While that was disproven in something I covered in my video, it's a great example of how important context is. Number 5, I shouldn't have gotten emotional. This is advice I received by proxy from someone. They were given the advice from a high-profile commentary YouTuber and shared it with me, and it really resonated with me. While I've written scripts for each of my videos, I want to make more of an effort to remove stronger emotions from the topics I cover because I feel like certain emotions are detrimental to credibility and my overall motivation for getting into commentary. I don't want to be an emotionless talking head, of course, but there's more value in staying calm and rational than there is shouting into my mic about how I'm upset and hurt by something. If that's someone's shtick, that's fine, but it's not mine, and I think emotions should take a backseat, especially when trying to consider multiple sides of a drama. And finally, number 6, don't censor comments. This isn't something I do, honestly, anyway, but it's something I wanted to add because I think it's something that's extremely important. There are things I've deleted, like someone spamming the clown certificate song on almost every blessed comment on one of my videos. I also deleted 1 or 2 comments that were held by YouTube that were just really disgusting and vulgar. Those aren't the things that I'm talking about here. I've had comments that disagree with things that I say or they're outright bashing me, most especially in my last 2 videos. And whether you agree with negative comments or not, it's still important for them to be there. If you want to operate in an echo chamber, that's totally fine if that's your prerogative, but people are going to notice if you heavily moderate your comment section, and that's something that can also hurt your credibility. It's also important to be tactful when responding to those comments if you should so choose. I'm not saying don't respond to them at all. I've responded to comments I've seen as negative, and sometimes I've been tactful and sometimes I've been toxic. I personally need to put all of my focus onto being tactful if I choose to respond. Let me be frank. I know I'm capable of being wrong. And there are definitely things I was wrong about. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face that I don't want people using me as a be-all, end-all opinion on any topic that I choose to cover. Now, as for the future of this channel, I'm rested and a lot more relaxed about everything. I have a lot of ideas for things I want to cover, but I'm also open to suggestions or ideas if there's something you'd really like me to talk about. I don't like saying things that have already been said or things that have already been done. For example, there's new Yandere Dev exposed videos that come out every single day and they all say the same thing. There are 2 Yandere Dev videos that I'd like to make that I haven't seen others really ever talk about, but I've been working on the script slowly to see if they're really worth making a video on. I also want to continue working on the quality of my videos. I don't want to just continue using the leafy format with gameplay footage and occasional screenshots of something here and there. While I personally like listening to commentary, I know that some of you would appreciate more than just what you're seeing here. And just know that it's a work in progress. I really have my community to thank for giving me so many ideas for directions I want to go. If you'd like, join my Discord, follow me on Twitch, I'm streaming again, and my Twitter's open up again. I had it locked down because I'm so very rarely on Twitter anymore, but after getting so many follow requests, I opened it back up. I'm not sure when my next video will be ready. I can't commit to an upload schedule just yet, but it's something I'm open to in the future. Thanks for listening.